Welcome to the Smart Dating Academy podcast. I'm Bela Gandhi, the founder of Smart Dating Academy and your host. I started Smart Dating Academy in 2009 because I had this crazy knack of giving people dating advice that actually worked, that I took. I've been married for almost 25 years, and now my company helps people to date smarter and to find love. This podcast is meant to bring more love into your life, no matter where you are and what you do. And we're here to bring more life into your life. Welcome back. I hope that you've had a great week and that you have celebrated you and all of the awesomeness in your week. And if you haven't, I want you to think to yourself right now, what are 3 great things that have happened to me or 3 things I'm looking forward to? Okay, take a minute. And I want you to put yourself into the most positive headspace that you can, because we have some really positive, amazing information to impart on you. So we're going to dive right in. And because she's so friggin' fantastic, I'm bringing Lindsay Anderson, my right-hand, blonde-haired, blue-eyed soulmate. She's the Luke Skywalker to my Darth Vader, as I like to say. And I brought her back because we've never done this before. And the secrets to successful dating was so crazily, lusciously packed with information that we couldn't get it all jammed into one. So we're now bringing you in to episode 2 for even more secrets. Now, yes, there is a part 1, and don't freak out and think you have to listen to this. This is not the Star Wars and the Empire Strikes Back. You can listen to this episode and go back and listen to last week's episode. You'll be fine. So with no further ado, Lindsay, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited. This has been so fun. I'm really happy that we have a chance to do this. And if you know Bella and I, you know that we could have conversations that could start and could carry on for days and days and days. So I feel very lucky that we could divide this up into 2 parts, so we can try to get out as much as we can. And who knows, there's always more stewing in our heads. So, and we will give you everything that we have and everything that we know to help you all with your dating.
And so if you're wondering, okay, what is this? I have to tell you, Lindsay has worked with me and Smart Dating Academy since 2013. So we are going on a decade together, right? That's like 3,650 days together. So those of you who know me know I like those kinds of numbers. But we have another really important number to share with you. In the last 6 days alone, we've had ding, ding, 2 clients message us with engagement rings. And these are both clients that have worked with Lindsay at Smart Dating Academy and me, of course. So Holly she emailed us yesterday saying that while she was on a hike with her amazing boyfriend, they got engaged. And Lindsay, you and I were talking a little bit before the microphone went on, is Holly was an ideal client because she followed the process exactly. So tell us about that.
She did. I mean, Holly is, well, everyone who knows Holly is lucky. She is truly a lovely, warm, smart, engaging woman. And she came to us with dating patterns, just like all of our clients who enlist our help. They come to us trying to figure out why they are so successful at work and why this piece of getting what they want out of relationships isn't working for them. And Holly she was incredibly coachable, and she is coachable, which is, I think, why she does so well at work. But she was really good at saying, listen, I have invested in this. I'm going to listen to what you guys say. Even if I'm not sure I want to do it, I'll just tell you, I don't know, this is a little bit weird, and she'll keep going. So what Holly did, she hit a couple of the tenements we talked about last week, where she really made sure that she kept other daters in the mix, and she didn't lock him down right away when he first showed up. So she always had a good pipeline. She compared and she contrasted. There was one guy who seemed a little more exciting at first. And of course, spoiler alert, she ended up with the steady guy who was consistent, who showed up, who is lovely and thoughtful and kind and considerate. And it was easy. And that was the big word that Holly kept saying. She's like, I've never dated anybody where it's felt this easy. And honestly, I couldn't be thrilled, but she was really good at pacing her dating life, keeping other people in the mix, not jumping in too soon, not going all in, making sure she had the conversations ahead of time about what they both wanted long-term. So they knew they were working towards a future together. And then there's a whole lot more because we got to work together for a long time, but she's fabulous. And I'm really excited for them both.
And for those of you that are curious, I'll post in the show notes the story of Holly because she's given us permission and she wrote this cute little statement about what she did and how she found love. So if you're curious about that, there will be a link in the show notes where you can read about the magical Holly. And just sit right now before we get into this and know that good things are coming for you. You're smart enough to listen to this smart podcast. You're smart enough to know you want to make those kinds of changes. So what I want you to do is get psychotically optimistic right now and say, if it happened for Holly, it's going to happen for me. It's a when, it's not an if. And now that you're in that mind space and you're feeling the little tinglies and you're feeling the warm hug Lindsay and I are sending you across the audio waves, we're going to dive right in and talk to you about the reciprocal. We kind of ended with this a little bit, but I want to circle back to this, Lindsay. Where there's smoke, there is fire. This is one of the things we tell our clients all the time. And this is something my dad taught me young. You know what? And what does it mean where there's smoke, there's fire? It's like when you start to see that something's a little weird, right? When you look up in the sky and you see that plume of black, you're like, that's not probably a bunch of cicadas flying around. There's a fire somewhere underneath there. So when you start to see people that are not behaving well, I think what you got yourself there is you're netting somebody that might be narcissistic, that might not be emotionally available, or just might be a doggone jerk. So let's talk a little bit about that. What have you seen with red flags, Lindsay, where our clients are successful and where they can turn this around? What are the red flags that they start to detect and throw back to the pond?
Yes. Well, I think the fun thing is every single week, I am helping people see those red flags in their individual dating situation. So if I even just went back to this week alone, I'm like, I have a checklist already in place. So even just one thing I was talking about with a client yesterday is just that idea that what starts fast often ends fast. And a big red flag to us is somebody who really wants to rush into a relationship right away. And they want to lock you down quickly and they want to go all in. They are very focused on their own needs, their own wants. And they don't, when you put a boundary around taking things slowly, meaning you have a great date on a Monday and they ask you out for Wednesday and you say, I would love to go out with you on Wednesday. I just can't. I could see you next week. The smoke fire are the ones who are saying, you know what? No. Is this not a priority to you? Are you not going to make time? Wait, what are you doing? Where are you going? Are you seeing other people? And they try to make you feel guilty if you don't give them enough time right away. So I saw that already earlier this week.
And it's controlling. That is controlling behavior, right? If you want to control what someone else is saying, if, like Lindsay's saying, if we tell our clients that was a great date and they want to ask you out again for tomorrow and you punt to next week, and if they start to behave that way, it's a red flag on them. But the insidious part of this is it'll make you feel like, especially if you're coming from that scarcity mindset, like you've got to take this good one while it's hot. And what we will tell you is the perfect litmus test is when you've had a great date and when they think it's a great date and they want to see you right away, push it out just a little bit. We're not saying months. We're saying not tomorrow or the day after, and see how they react. And of course, we're going to give you script, and we do, around how to say that so that the person feels good about it and they don't feel like their priority B and C. But if someone wigs at you for doing that and for not being as into this as you are, and that is 100% a red flag. And even now, let's flash forward. Even if this person was great in the beginning. Now, let's say by the sixth date, okay, or the seventh date or the eighth date, they want to pull you off the market. They want to be exclusive, but you're not ready for this yet. You can tell them, you know what? I'm really enjoying being with you. I'm enjoying the dating process, but I don't want to make mistakes that I've made in the past and take responsibility. See how that person reacts to you slowing things down. And if their reaction is negative, if it is judgmental, critical, a little disappointment is okay. I'll take disappointment like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm a little bummed about that, but you know what? I want you to feel like you're good and I want you to feel comfortable. So I'll go along with that. Okay. A little disappointment is fine. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think what we see is a lot of consistency. The good people who really want to be in relationships will be really respectful of your pace. They will like you a little more and they'll realize that you're worth waiting for. And if you need to slow it down, they're like, okay, I'm good. I'll take as much time as you need to feel comfortable. You know, with the pushiness, a client, she had gone out with the guy. I just talked to her yesterday about 7 dates or so, and she had gone out of town. She just came back. So they set up a date after, and he got incredibly pushy about wanting to come up to her apartment at the end of the date. Now, if you are a smart dater and you're in our mix, you know, we talk a lot about do not have people up into your apartment until you are exclusive. Hold off on all of that because things will go off the rails and everyone gets a little physical. And she just said, listen, I really like you. I like where things are going. I don't feel comfortable having you up today, but I know we have plans tomorrow. I'm excited to see you tomorrow. And he started playing the victim. Oh, I just don't think you like me enough. Why won't you, I'll just come out. She's like, I'm tired. He said, it's okay. I'll leave when you fall asleep. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing, being respectful of her boundaries. And then he started to flip it on her a little bit. She's like, wait, maybe I was. I'm like, no. You stated what your line was, and he kept pushing. That is a red flag. Anybody who doesn't respect your boundaries is a big red flag. Anybody who's so focused on what they want and not looking at what's helpful to move things forward together, red flag. And then she noticed the change in behavior. He got a little snippy with her, and then he just walked away in a huff.
Oh,
bad. Oh yeah. We're giving him the goodbye sandwich. We're letting him go.
And let me ask you this. Were there red flags before the date, the 7th date?
So that's what's interesting. He started off pretty well. So we talk about this a lot. When you're dating people, you don't know in those first few dates if this person's going to go the distance with you. Because I think that up front, we always talk about how you're dating the representative. People know how to present themselves in the beginning. Obvious red flags will come out right away, but sometimes it takes a few dates. So this was a big shift in behavior. I think there wasn't anything obvious, but she had been pacing the dates really well. She'd just been out with him for a couple of hours or a date here and there at a time. And then the pushiness started to kick in. So you have to date people longer to really know who they are. So if somebody says, oh, he's so lovely and wonderful and so trustworthy, and I'm like, okay, well, that's date number 2. Let's give it some time and just see.
Let's give it some time. Remember, there's no substitute for time in the dating process. And so often, to Lindsay's point and great story, we want to make these snap judgments. And this dude looked fine until this moment, right? And then he flipped. So guess what? If we would have played by 3-date rule, okay? If we would have said, yeah, he's amazing. Let's put you in, let's be exclusive, which is kind of what he wanted from the get-go. Imagine what would have happened, right? At that point, you might sleep together. You're oxytocin bonded. You now start ignoring red flags. You start making excuses for the things that you don't like, right? Because now you're in and you're chemically bonded. So there's so much wisdom in slowing things down and letting people remember, ladies and gentlemen, a person needs to earn you.
Absolutely. Say that again, Bella. That is so important.
They need to earn you, right? And in our practice at Smart Dating, they need to earn you and they need to earn us at the same time, because we're your guardian angels in the dating world. We're your personal trainers, but people need to earn you, and earning doesn't come fast, right? If you think about, you're going out on 3 dates with somebody, if you're, even if you're going on 2-3 hour dates, you've kind of spent one legitimate 9 to 5 workday with this person. If you add up the cumulative hours, it's not a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen, that we're listening to, all the bad, crappy information that's out there. Like, we need to lock things down and we've got to do things quickly because someone else is going to take this person. Not really. I mean, what do you really know? If your kid said on day 1 of school, I hate it here, I want to come home, I just dropped my daughter off at college, as everybody knows, because I've told all of you. And if she would have called me, thank God she didn't, day 1, saying, Mom, I want to come home, do you think I would have been like, yeah, you know what, let's pack your dorm up and come on home? No, it's day 1. You've only been there for a day. And yet when we go out on 3 dates and spend 9 hours with somebody, we want to make decisions as in, yeah, I can be exclusive with you. Yeah, I can sleep with you. So I'm putting this into time hours. So we put some ration to a very irrational process, which is love.
Yes. Oh, you were right. And giving things time to really see and watching how people behave. Do their words and their actions match? Are they consistent and reliable? We talked about this with another client this morning that I was talking to before this podcast, where this guy is really, he's showing up in a really great way. He's being consistent. He's asking out. He's not trying to rush things. And when you're used to dating people always want to rush, you're like, wait a second, what's wrong? We're like, all right, this is good. We'll see. This has potential, but we won't know until we give it months of dating.
Months of dating. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But you said, going back to people need to earn you. The way we want you to really look at this is we want you to believe that you are a catch, a complete catch, and then act like it. Act like it. You are amazing. Whoever you meet and whoever you date, they are lucky to meet you. You have something that you're bringing to the table. And when you date from this place of feeling like he is lucky or she is lucky to meet me, you will allow yourself, you won't accept the crumbs. You won't accept the red flags. This is a big one.
100%. And that leads perfectly into the next thing that we want to share with you, which is a person that likes you won't leave you guessing. Why? Because people make time for the things and the people they want, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that being a coach over this number of years, we start seeing, we talked about this in the last podcast, but there are patterns and there's a very consistent behavior, that way that people behave who want to be in relationships. And when I hear that somebody is too busy and that, if I start hearing excuses from somebody like, oh, he's just so busy with work and he's just so busy. And you know what, he can only fit me in this one time this month. I don't buy it. Frankly, I don't buy it. We look at it as when somebody is ready to date, they will move mountains to be with you. Even if they do have that crazy work project or they have something going on, they will figure out a small pocket of time, even if it's just bringing you a cup of coffee. We have seen it over and over again, but someone will always make time. So if somebody is too busy, that's probably a sign that maybe they're really not in the right headspace, and just pay attention to it. And this is why you make sure you're always dating other people, so that if somebody does get caught up in their life and they're not ready, it doesn't hurt so much. We'll talk about that. But But what we see is that people, not only are they never too busy to date, they will set up dates in advance. You'll end the date. They'll tell you this was really fun. I'd love to see you again. They follow up within the next few days. They immediately set up the next date in a very consistent way. If they're traveling, they're like, I'm going out of town at the end of next week. I'd like to see you when I get back. Are you free the Monday I return from Sunday night? And they let you know because they communicate in a way that you can predict what they're going to do.
It's so true. And And let me take that further down the time horizon here. Let's say, okay, let's go back to our example with the client who had been on 7 dates. Okay. And there's everything looks like it's, let me say it's pointing northbound. Okay. Like it's all going well. Now, all of a sudden, let's say this person was incredibly consistent and they were reliable. And suddenly on the 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th date, something like that, suddenly they're like, they stopped texting at the cadence that they used to text you at. Mm-hmm. The dates seem to get longer in between. Yes. They're not communicating as much. Like, oh, I'm really busy at work. Any behavior changes like that fall under the same category. Nobody is too busy. Yes. I don't care what you say. I have told the story and I will tell it again for the people in the back. Andy and I, when we were dating, actually, we were dating or we were married, whatever it was. We were young and we both had very international jobs where we would travel to places for months. I've lived in Asia for months. He lived in Germany for months. And yet, even with long distance phone bills back in the day, we talked to each other every day, even when there were 14-hour time differences between us. We found a way to talk every single day. And if we couldn't, we would let the other person know why we couldn't do that. But there was no guessing. There was zero guessing. And now that I think about that, sorry, we weren't married. We were dating at that point. We weren't even engaged. He did a stint. He interned, or he was working for Daimler Chrysler in Stuttgart. And I was living in Hong Kong in the new territories, setting up when I used to run the nonstick coating company with my family, setting up a new factory and a new laboratory facility. Yeah. So we were literally in Germany and Hong Kong, and we continued our relationship because we wanted to, and there was no questions about it. So anybody who changes behaviors, but let's say Andy started texting me once a week because he's like, oh, Belle, I'm just really sorry. I just can't talk to you because this deal's keeping me so busy. Do you think he didn't have time for a 60-second phone call? If you're listening to this,
of course, yeah,
think about it. Are you ever too busy to communicate with someone you love? Never.
No.
Okay. So
we'll prioritize it no matter what. And we'll say, and what's interesting is too, this is why when we go back to giving people a lot of time, people can make time in the beginning and then they can lock you down and you can get in a relationship with them. But then you want to note in this first few months of dating exclusively, do they stay consistent and continue to build time for you? Or again, if there's that shift and change in behavior, something we've observed is between about months 3 and months 4 of dating, that seems to be the magic number when there can first be the first crack in the armor if there were some red flags that were swept under the rug. So making sure that you really date and give somebody long enough to really see, are they consistent? And knowing that, of course, things occasionally will come up. The question is, then do they communicate this is happening? And then they have another plan and they address it. And then they see you right away afterwards. But we pay attention to any shifts and any changes in behavior for sure.
Absolutely. And remember, a person that wants to be with you will move mountains to be with you. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. They won't leave you guessing. Yeah. Okay. And
taxi light is on.
Exactly. Your taxi light is on. I love that. I'm available. I'm open. Ding, 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 ding. Now let's talk about the reciprocal to that. Okay. And sometimes we get people that come to us with a lot of trauma. Yeah. Could be anxiety. Could be, they've been to hell and back. A lot of our clients have had things happen to them that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And maybe you listening have been in that space of the love of your life suddenly left you at the altar, cheated on you, you built this life together and they just woke up one day and said, you know what? I don't love you anymore. And that is something awful and traumatic to go through. And sometimes what it leaves us with is a whole snake pit of fears. Yeah. And one of the biggest fears that we all have in our guts. And this isn't just if you've been ghosted or cheated on. This is if you're a second grader, if you're an 11th grader, if you're in your 20s, 30s, 70s, or 80s, we're afraid of the R word, of rejection. Rejection. Let's talk about that. What do you see, Lindsay, with regards to our clients having their dating lives affected by their fear of rejection? What happens?
Yeah. Well, the big R word is the scary word, and it comes up with every single client I work with. And I say that for all of you who are listening, because this is a very human characteristic. I think deep down, everyone is afraid of rejection. And having worked with both men, women, and every single age group, when you realize that it's the same thing that every single person's afraid of, I look at it as almost from a place of compassion. You're afraid of rejection. The person you're going on a date with, they're also equally afraid of it. And if you're both afraid of the same thing, I'd like you to visualize the two things kind of clashing together and then just poof, being neutralized. Come at it from a place of compassion. What is rejection really? Rejection is something that we create in our minds of it's our old story playing out. Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I pretty enough? It's all of those things. And these are just made up thoughts, mind monkeys swirling around. Rejection on a deep level doesn't happen. Rejection is about the story we're telling ourselves. And so the way that I look at it, if a client goes on a date with somebody who's really, they're so excited, and then that person chooses not to call the next day, I look at it as it's not about you, it's where that person's at. It could be 20 different reasons why they didn't call, and none of them have to do with you. They could not be ready. They could be dating somebody a little further along. They could be really busy with work. They don't want to be in a relationship. They'd be attracted to dysfunction, and you are a lovely, nice, normal person. So you don't activate them because they want something crazy. It could be, we could come up and spend our entire podcast coming up with 100 different reasons on why it's not about you. So it is one of those that if somebody doesn't call after the date, it's okay. You know what they're doing? They are creating space in your life to say, I like to say the phrase, bless and release. Bless and release.
Yes. Bless and release. And remember, one of the things that I will tell you is we want you to know that the person that we want you to end up with should like you a little bit more than you like them. Okay. And now sit with that for a second. Likes me a little bit more. Why? Because they prize you, they adore you, they want to take care of you, right? It's like 49, 51. You're 49, they're 51. And now, if someone doesn't want to go out on a second date with you, do they hit your measure? Well, if you didn't like me a little bit more, they're not the right person for you. So that's it. And you just move along, because if this person is showing their true colors right away, who cares? Let it go. Bless, release, move on. And when you say no to messaging somebody back, when you say no to a date, is your goal to make that person feel rejected? No, never. That is never your goal. And for whatever reason, it might be a no for you, and it might be a no for 100 different reasons. But is your goal to make that person feel like you're not good enough?
Yeah, never.
No.
Nobody wants to do that. We're kind, lovely people.
Absolutely. And this goes with regards to anything. If someone comes to me looking for a job and I say, I'm not sure that there's a great fit, does that mean I want them to feel rejected or they're not good enough? No, it might mean we don't have any openings right now. It might mean, you know what? We need someone who's experienced with this educational background. It doesn't mean you're not good enough, right? It just means what it means. So don't create a story around that at the end of the day. And it's the same thing with dating, but dating feels so much more personal than it does with regards to the example that I just gave right now about hiring and jobs, right? Because we can create a lot of stories around, well, okay, I didn't have the right degree, or I didn't have 5 years of experience, or I didn't have this here, because we can turn it into something quantitative. But in dating, we turn it into something qualitative. It's about me. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. For guys, I'm not tall enough. I'm not rich enough. Whatever that is, I want you to say, if this person doesn't like me a little bit more and they're not chomping at the bit to go out with me, I'm throwing them back to the pond.
Absolutely.
So good. So don't fear rejection. Everybody's afraid of it. It's rooted in our most, in the deepest parts of our reptilian limbic brains. Nobody wants to be rejected. Not the kindergartner, not the middle schooler, not the high schooler, not the sorority girl, and certainly not the adult, right? We all fear rejection. And like Lindsay's saying, I'll put it into mathematical terms. Look at this as a math equation. If there's a common denominator on both sides, it cancels itself out.
Yes. You're exactly right. And, I tell, just the basic, we call it the rejection proof rule, which is more along the lines, if you show up on a date and you are genuinely bringing your best self to the date, and you are asking questions, and you're being kind, and you're being nice, and you are being the person that you are, then that is it. If you are not, nobody can reject you for being who you are. If you behave badly, if you're mean, if you're horrible, if you say mean things to them and you put that person down, well, then, hey, maybe that is a rejection, but nobody's doing that. Everyone is going forward and being the best person they can on the date. And realize that when it doesn't work out, they are creating space in your life for the right person to come along. And so you can often say, thank you. You're showing me early on, you're not for me, but I wish you well. Who's next?
Exactly. So don't get bogged down in being afraid of being rejected, because it's not going to serve you well. And that brings me perfectly, tease me up.
Woohoo.
For the next secret that we found that has made our clients really successful. And it's what you think and what you feel about dating that ultimately will decide your outcome.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Mindset is everything. When you choose to embrace dating, and you choose to like the process, and you choose to understand that we know that the person for you is out there, that you're going to keep dating until you find him or her, either way. But the ones who decide to get behind dating and to recognize that, have fun with it and look for what's good, those are the clients that have the most success. The 2 engagements we just had, I could tell you, they were having fun dating. Now, normally people don't hear the words dating and fun and put the 2 together, but unless you're working with us, they
absolutely
looked at it, then you're having a little more fun. But they looked at it as, I'm going to keep doing this because I have a plan. I know what I'm looking for. I know what the right kind of partner feels like for me. And I'm going to keep dating till that person comes into my life, no matter how long it takes. And I'm going to choose to focus on what's good. So they both went on lots of dates with people that were not good fits, but they didn't let those bad dates, if they ever determine their outcome and have them quit or give up, they're like, okay, well, that wasn't a great date, but next, who do I meet next? And they kept going, and they chose to like the process because they knew that the process was there to help them.
It's so true. And if you're listening to this and you've tried, if you've tried all of these things, or maybe you're working with us already at this point, sometimes what people will say, like, it's happening for everybody else around me. Why isn't it happening for me? And what I want to tell you is that thought in and of itself is going to set you back, right? Just pull yourself into not woe is me. I've been doing this for 5 months or 2 years or 3 years. And why is everybody else having success? Why are these 2 other people engaged and I'm not engaged? Remember, what they did really well, and what I know you're going to do really well, is say, you know what? my time will come when my time is right. And I am going to continue to have fun dating, and I am going to continue to be positive about dating. I am not going to fear rejection. I am not going to ignore red flags. And love is out there for me. It's a when, it's not an if. So what I want you to do is put yourself in this state of psychotic optimism. I want you to take that mindset, because comparing yourself to others is a recipe for misery and depression in any way, shape, or form. Yes. Oh, she's got this kind of car. Oh my God, she looks like this. She's this size. He just made partner at work. Whatever that is, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes. And on top of that, they say that unmet expectations is the definition of unhappiness. And so what that really is coming down to is, if you have an expectation that you were supposed to put yourself online right away and find love, and then that didn't happen after the first or second meeting, then you're starting to feel more and more unhappy. And what happens? What we think influences the way that we feel and the kinds of actions that we're going to take. So if you're in that mindset and you're feeling like, you know what, oh my gosh, it is not going to happen for me, and dating sucks, and this is terrible, and this is such a chore, and everybody out there is horrible, what happens? You get on the site and you will start to filter, and you will only see people that are going to prove that you're right. Our brains like to be right. We're going to start to look for evidence to support that everybody on the site then is terrible and awful and a waste of your time. Then that's going to bring your energy down further. So what's that going to do? You're going to get into that place where you're not even going to want to get online anymore. You're going to give up. You're going to stop looking. And then that's where you get stuck. And so what we're going to tell you is, you have a lot more power and agency over this. You have a chance to sort of, before you get on the site, if it's a Post-it note on your computer, whatever it is that lifts you up, it's love is out there for me. It's when, it's not an if. And then when you get onto the site, you're like, what am I going to find today? What am I going to learn new today? Somebody's going to pop up who's not going to be a good fit. We are not creating a story around that person. We're just going to delete them, move on, and look at who can we find today. Look at this like hunting. Be excited. There are more good people out there than there are bad. There are more good than bad.
100%. And I think I've told this story before, and I'll say it again, because repetition is the key to making changes. It's, if you get online and all you see are like, ugh, 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 I hate everybody, chances are you're not in the right mindset, right? When you get on and you've got that gloom and doom, like, okay, everybody looks like they were just sprung out of prison, or these all look like Russian mail order brides that are catfishes. No, you know what? Call us. We'll help you through that tunnel. Call a friend. You need somebody to be objective with you, because when we have those gray lenses on, if our mindset is like, okay, this is a chore, everyone sucks, I hate this, you look at the world with gray lenses, and you'll look at your Match or your Hinge or your Bumble or your Tinder or your Coffee Meets Bagel with those same gray lenses. So all of this, I often say, and Lindsay's heard me use this analogy, that successful dating and the secrets to dating, there isn't just one. It's like when you put your key in the ignition to your car, right? And the car starts, there's a boatload of things that happen underneath that engine. I don't know what they are. I'm not a car person, but I know that there's pistons and there's spark plugs and there's gas and there's this and there's that. And there's, what I forget.
Really, there are no mufflers. I just learned there's no.
Oh, there's combustion. There's a whole bunch of shit going on. Right. And I just know that there's a lot of magic that happens all at the same time that makes my car go into reverse so I can get out of my driveway. And dating, guys, is so much of the same thing. There's a lot of magic that has to happen inside and outside to get this train, to get that car to reverse out of the driveway and then go straight into love lane. So
yes. Oh, I love the analogy.
So we're going to take that car into love lane, but know that so much of everything, so much of everything in life, okay, and I'm going to go have an Oprah moment now, comes from how we think about things.
Yes. Yes.
If the human brain cannot distinguish between something we imagine and something that truly happens. Why do Olympic athletes, so much of their time isn't just spent skiing up and down the hill, up, down, up, down. It's spent visualizing what would happen when I get into this pickle and things don't go well. What would I do? What am I going to feel like when I overtake everybody and I'm in front? And what's it going to feel like to cross that finish line?
Yes.
Right? Lindsay, you tell this great story of power posing before your tennis matches and what that did for you. Tell us about that.
Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. We used to talk about that. I love it. I used to, when I was playing in a tennis league, I would have a very special routine before I'd play my match, where I would on my way get into the right mindset by listening to my favorite song on the drive there. And then before I would get there, I would stand really tall and I'd put my racket above my head and I would power pose my way through. Now, here's the interesting thing. And I don't want to get on that trail. We don't know necessarily if power posing works or not, but here's the key to it. I thought it was magic. I believed in my head that this worked, that if I stood tall and felt victorious, that I would win my matches. And then I'd get in the right mindset where I'd feel confident. I'd feel happy. I'd feel secure. I feel like I did all the little things I needed to do to win. And then I started winning my tennis matches. Now, it was not necessarily because I'm an amazing tennis player, because I am not an amazing tennis player at all. It was that I had the confidence and the enthusiasm when I was playing that I felt like I was a winner and I acted like a winner. And there's a lot with that, with dating.
100%. And I do believe, for a variety of reasons, power posing 100% works. Okay. And so put your mind in the right place. If you don't know about power posing, Amy Cuddy's TED Talk on power posing is amazing. It's still one of my favorites. Lindsay and I went to go see her on Lindsay's birthday, give a talk about her book Presence. It's amazing.
I did start winning after I did it. So when we went to that TED Talk, I remember.
Oh, 100%. And before I did my own TED Talk, I'll tell you, there was some Wonder Woman power posing going on behind the scenes, because it's scary to do things. And when you put your arms out and you take up space, that will help to get your mind into place. And if you are feeling anxious about something, if you're feeling nervous, just tell yourself, I belong here, right? This is going to go great. And power pose the heck out of your body. And you're going to feel like you're in a great place. So remember, what you feel determines what you think, determines what you feel, and how you feel determines what you act, the way you're going to act. So why the hell not think love is out there for me? It's a when, not an if. And those of you who have been following us for a long time know that during 2020, we did Instagram lives, if not once a week, every Thursday, multiple times a week, just to be a bright light and to bring people together in a community that could talk to each other. And I remember one day I was reiterating psychotic optimism and the message, love will come to me. It's a when, not an if. And I was on a tear and I was like, all right, I want you guys to take a red lipstick, take your favorite berry red lipstick and write it on your bathroom mirror in red lipstick and send it to me. And I will post it in my story. And I will tell you, so many of you wrote it in red lipstick on your mirrors because you would look at it every day in that powerful red on your mirror like a badass. And I couldn't believe it. And people said, oh my God, it makes me feel powerful every time I look in the mirror because I see it emblazoned in red lipstick across my mirror. Do it. Do the thing that's going to remind you that you are a rock star, you are a badass, and you are psychotically optimistic, and you know that love will come to you. It's a when, it's not an if. So,
absolutely.
So I'm going to change gears. That is my favorite topic to talk about, mindset and psychotic optimism, but only rivaled potentially by red flags. And one of the red flags that Lindsay has seen so often when she's coaching clients long-term is old trauma. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means because I'm going to ask her. Old trauma shows up in new relationships. Yes. Tell us about this.
I look at it like old trauma could mean new drama.
Say it again for the people.
Old trauma could mean new drama, and new drama for you. If that person has not addressed their past and they haven't been actively working on it. And what I mean by that is, listen, all of us, everybody has their something. Part of the human experience is for us to go through things that are difficult. So we all have that in us, but it's really looking at pay attention to what somebody tells you up front in the beginning about their past. And the more stuff there is, the more time I want you to build into dating them. The more I want you to give it space to make sure that these patterns from their past do not show up in the new relationship. And I'll give you an example with that. I think that in the upfront, before somebody really knows you and before they're invested in you, I find that people tend to be much more of an open book, and they share a lot about where they're coming from very openly. So if somebody tells you right away, for example, if they have had kind of the worst thing happen where they've been abandoned by a parent when they're young, or if somebody was never around, or if there was a lot of abuse or a lot of alcohol in their house growing up and things like that, you will want to really make sure that you see that that person hasn't been so deeply affected that they haven't internalized that behavior where they now behave in the same way of the traumatic patterns they've seen at home, or how their attachment styles have been affected by it. If they've been left by a parent, do they also become avoidant? I know this is deeper stuff, but you really want to look at what somebody tells you and then dig in. You don't need to dig in on the first date or the second date. This is the kind of stuff that you really want to give time to make sure that you ask those questions over time. Did they see a therapist? Have they been working on it? Have they talked to people about it? Are they aware of what it is? There's a lot.
And let me tell you something. And all the new data that's come out post-COVID shows that one of the sexiest things that we can say that we do is be in therapy. Okay. That mental health is so important to the majority of singles that are dating, right? Think about it. If you are going on a date and somebody's like, this is what I've been through, but I'm in therapy and I'm working on it. How attractive is that? It means I know that I can't choose my families of origin. I knew that I can't choose the stuff that happens to me, good or bad sometimes, but I'll tell you that I'm doing my work to make peace with it. I'm doing my work to put it in the right place in my brain that doesn't make me reenact those traumas again and again and again. So it's okay. And if you're listening to this going, well, shit, I've had a lot of trauma. Am I a red flag? Not necessarily. Yeah. In fact, I'm giving you a big hug. Yeah. You're not a red flag. And especially if you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're invested in growing. I know that you're not looking for, somebody that's just going to tell you, go on and put some lipstick on and have a great date, right? This is not lipstick on a pig. This is very much like, let's work on our stuff. Let's get better. We're investing in our growth. And so many of our clients are that, they're in coaching and they're concurrently in therapy. And they're like, do I need to do both? I'm like, yes. It takes a damn village to find love, people. Okay. It really does. And know that just because somebody has had trauma, it doesn't necessarily red flag them. It means, what are they doing to make peace with it? What are they doing to be a healthy partner that can have a healthy attachment to you, where they don't have a run reflex.
Yes.
Or things get hard that they're like, oh my God, relationships, as soon as there's conflict, they just want to bolt. That's not a good sign. And somebody who has been in therapy understands that conflict is inevitable with two people. If you have a dating relationship, you have a marriage, you have a colleague relationship, you have a friendship, a best friend, a child. If you don't have conflict at a certain point, somebody's giving in all the time.
Yeah.
And if you look at that conflict as, I want to use this not to win. Anytime you look at conflict as a zero-sum game, I want to win, so you lose, you will destroy the relationship. When you look at this as, let me take this conflict to resolve it, to get us both to a better place, you will navigate the conflict gently. But if it's a win-lose dynamic, I will tell you what, every time somebody walks into a conversation or a date or a relationship saying, I want to be right, you might intellectually be right, but what you've done is put a paper cut on that person.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And you don't want death by 1,000 paper cuts, because that ain't a good way to die or to kill somebody. Right.
No. And when you're in a healthy relationship with somebody and you've reached that point where, look, we talk about how you want people to earn your story. So if you've had a lot of things in your past, you do not need to lay it out on the table on the first few dates with somebody that's still a stranger. This person needs to earn that and give that time, and really make sure that they are a safe place for you to share what happened. But when you build a relationship and you're in a healthy relationship, part of this is you start to learn what are the things that could be potential triggers for your partner. What are old wounds that have hurt them from their past? And you learn how to avoid those as gently as you can so that their old instincts don't get triggered. And you talk about that and you negotiate and you work through that as a couple. So, you know, gosh, my person is going to be really, really sensitive if I don't check in with them, if they don't get that good night phone call from me at the end of the day, because to them, if they don't get it, they might feel abandoned. And so, you know, it is 2 seconds of my time to give them that little goodnight check-in. And I want them to feel secure and I want them to feel safe. And you make those choices to do those things to help your partner along.
No, that's so true. That's so true. And I can just say, on a personal note, having one that just left for college 10 days ago, I wish she called me every single day, but I know in my mind that if she called me every single day, it would be because she wasn't happy at school. So I am letting that relationship go to where it should be, and it's really funny that as I was thinking this morning, man, I wish I would hear from her while we were recording this podcast. I saw my cell phone ring from her. So guys, you know what? Relationships are always something that's being navigated, right? And so understand, right? I have trauma from dropping a kid off last week. And I'm sure many of you listening to this understand that trauma. And it is traumatic when it's your first, right? But maybe I need to talk to my therapist about the trauma of this and grow from it. But I'm trying to be a good mom and let her spread her wings, because I know we raise children to be independent, right? And when they're independent, it can be like, oh, don't they need me? But that's my own stuff. So you need to get in touch with your own traumas, like me and you and all of us, and deal with those, and also be gentle, but listen for people that have had trauma. It doesn't mean you necessarily throw them back to the curb in the dating world, but what are they doing to deal with the trauma? And if they are not open to growing, to therapy, to coaching, that's where we will help you navigate this. And that person might not be the best bet for you. It's like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I don't believe that. You can teach any dog a trick if the dog wants to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and I think with that too, I think we talk about when you are in a new relationship, it's just about, we talk a lot about getting clarity too, and learning and understanding where somebody's coming at, and not making assumptions just based on things in our past about where somebody's at or what they want. So I think another big point we wanted to make today is just never assume dear daters, just ask. Just ask.
Just ask. If you want to know something, ask the question. If you don't know where this person stands, if you don't know if they're looking for a relationship that leads to marriage, if you don't know if they're that into you, ask the question. Be courageous. And when you ask it from a place of authenticity, sincerity, and you want to know, it's not too much, right? Sometimes people will say, well, I told this person, I don't want this to come off badly, but I am looking for a relationship that could ultimately lead to marriage. Is that something that you're interested in as well? And if that person says, with the right person, absolutely, that's good. Put yourself at ease, be true to yourself. And if you don't know something, ask the question of the person. And when you ask it in the right way, Lindsay, wouldn't you agree? It won't be too soon.
No, it really isn't. And I think it helps also define good, clear communication early on, which is one of the hallmarks of a healthy relationship. And it's asking from, we always say, assume the best intention. Put yourself, when we're going, and this is all of these things get layered together. I think this is where collective dating advice, it's a lot of different things. It's the car analogy that Bela was saying too. It's very much assume the best intention, but don't write the story for them if you're not sure. So it's asking for clarity. If they say, I just want to date really slowly, I'm just looking for friends first, like, okay. And that could be a red flag, meaning they may not be ready for a relationship. That's one way. Or it could just mean this is somebody, when they're dating, they don't want to rush into a quick relationship like they've done in the past, and they're taking things more slowly. So you can always come from things with a place of curiosity and just say, well, I'm curious. So what does that mean to you? What does dating at like friends first look like for you? And come at it from a place of, I could learn something new, but I just want to check, because my interpretation of that and your interpretation of that could be very, very different.
Amen. Absolutely well said. And speaking of assuming, and this is a big old assumption everybody's making in the dating world. Let me tell you, let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk. I knew you'd go. I can't hear that phrase and not sing the song.
So sex changes everything. It changes everything. And sleeping together too soon, when you're not ready, potentially will lead to not great things. Tell us about that.
Oh, I think this is another one. We talk about sex with our clients every single week, because Bela and I are old school, and we tell our clients it's sexclusivity. It is wait to sleep with somebody until you're in an exclusive relationship. And the reason we're doing that is not because we're prudes, but it's because we want to make sure it goes back to that first thing of giving things really time to see who somebody is, and making sure that you are not missing red flags in the beginning. And if you jump into bed too soon and you get flooded with all those amazing hormones and the oxytocin, the dopamine, and the attachment kicks in, it's really, really hard to see the red flags. And you get attached. And then as soon as you're sleeping with somebody, it's really hard to date other people. So then your pipeline goes away, because it feels awkward to then be going on a date with somebody if you're sleeping with somebody the next night. And so then you also lose that extra guardrail of making sure that you're comparing and contrasting behavior. And then all of a sudden you can fall into instant relationship mode. And it gets really, really, really tricky. So one of the biggest things we help our clients navigate is, how do you pace your dating so that you can give enough time, but you can also make sure the attraction's growing, and that when the question inevitably does come up about sex, or when over the third date you get invited to his house for dinner, which happens on the third and fourth date almost consistently. Everybody always wants to have somebody over for dinner on the third or fourth date, that you know how to navigate that, and you know how to keep things going, but not jump into bed too soon.
I couldn't have said it any better. So just get to know each other slowly, and surely. And you don't need to have sex with someone right away just to make sure that you're compatible in bed. What makes you most compatible in bed, ladies and gentlemen, is a strong emotional connection, a strong level of trust, and a strong friendship where if something does go a little sideways, you feel comfortable saying, hey, could we try blah, blah, blah? If you don't feel like you can talk about sex with this person, it's way too soon to be having sex with them. And I think
100%.
if you don't want to ascribe to sexclusivity or a number of dates, we've got the episode on the 15-date rule with Sylvia, which worked very well for her. If you are not comfortable talking to this person, if it wasn't good, ask yourself the question, should I be doing this at all? Or is it too soon? Do we need to have a depth of a relationship? Because typically what we hear from our clients, when they date slowly, when they look for an elevator person, when they make sure that there's no smoke, there's no fire, when there are no red flags, they let this proceed slowly over 3 months, over 4 months, they have the best sex of their lives.
Yes. Because a big component of that is trust and feeling comfortable. And let's face it, especially as you start dating and you get a little older, our bodies are changing and people have had different experiences or they've been married a long time and they're terrified. And so there's a lot that goes into this. And what I see from the men that I work with, if they really like somebody and it's too soon, they get in their heads. And as soon as they're in their heads, not everything else always works properly. So anxiety can build. So you need to be in a place where you really trust and you're more invested so you can work through those little hiccups that can happen initially in the beginning to lead to what ultimately happens to be really excellent, fulfilling, wonderful sexual lives together. But it takes time to get there. And everyone is such a hurry to test that out. And remember that myth we talked about in the beginning with the last episode is that often people think that idea that you have to have instant chemistry is going to translate into an amazing sex life.
And it doesn't.
And that is simply not the case. No,
not true.
Not at all.
Not true. And I think with that, I love this end cap of surrounding yourself with people that are good for you. Tell us about that.
Oh, the people around you shape who you are. You are the combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And when it comes to finding love, you want to make sure that you are surrounded by people who are incredibly encouraging and supportive of this journey. They are positive. They build you up, that they tell you what's good about you, and that they are not going to sit and tell you about all the terrible daters out there and how horrible dating is and how everybody's crazy and have everyone get together and share all their bad stories. Because when you do that, you've all been in that situation where you've had that brunch on a Sunday morning and everybody complains. The whole energy collectively just goes down.
100%. So you want to have people around you that are supportive, that are encouraging, that want the best for you and will elevate you and support you through this journey. And if this sounds like something you need and you don't have in your life, reach out to us. We're here for you. We've got our magic wands and our crowns, and we want you to be our next engagement. And we know you can be, or just to find the lid to your pot, a companion to go to the symphony with, to play a game of pickleball with, whatever it is. So, Lindsay, thank you for imparting your deep wisdom with us. Grateful. And we will certainly have you back all the time. So
I'm ready.
Applause for you. And smart daters, until next week, we bid you farewell and give you a big, giant, psychotically optimistic hug. Until then, have a great week.